Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Well, hello there.
Good morning. And Steve is here too.
Good morning, everybody.
And Spence is joining us from somewhere in upstate New York.
Long Island, actually.
Long Island.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Were you going to see Nick?
Well, we'll actually be passing in Nick's vicinity.
You ought to stop and say hello.
I should see what's going on. Yeah, I'm not sure when we'll be going by there, but yeah.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is being brought to you by Adamus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals. And this broadcast is made possible by Telestream Wirecast software. Just wanted to let everybody know that at 10 o'clock we're going to have Tracy Goodwin, who is a speech specialist, speech expert, telling us about how to conduct ourselves when we talk, not just on podcasts, but in general.
She's going to learn us how to talk good.
She's going to learn us. Absolutely going to learn us.
You saying there's something wrong with the way I talk?
Well, you know, sometimes the people who do it are the last to know.
Yep. I remember when I was in high school, the drama director would make announcements in the morning on the PA system, and he would speak like this, always finishing his word, and we'd make fun of him. And then we realized later on that we listened to bands, our favorite bands, most of them, when they would sing a song, they were doing exactly the same thing, because otherwise you'd never understand what they were saying.
Not actually. I've dealt with this a lot, and actually, whenever you want to, you find people who enunciate every word, and even the British tend to make sure that the consonants on the ends of words are very clearly stated. And but the trick is when Steve does it, I mean, we hear his accent, but his excellent diction doesn't jump out at you as well, because they do it so well and have done it for so long, it sounds natural. Whenever someone is intentionally over enunciating their words and vowels and things, and when they're really trying to make a point like this guy was, it's very unnatural sounding. It actually diminishes the art of communications, and it really doesn't accomplish what's intended. And what I've learned, because I've had to do some voiceover things, that I've had to practice enunciating before my throat screwed up. I practice enunciating like Steve does, and it sounds very unnatural. But the more you do it, the more, like in the South they say, more you do it, the more you do it. The correct way is the more you do it.
The more you do it?
But you don't pronounce that t on the more you do it. I mean, that way there was a T. If you would go back and listen carefully, you would hear that I sounded the T, but I didn't do it. When you can hear the enunciation, it's wrong.
Yeah.
I speak a lot to some Chinese people because I'm trying to help them improve their English, and I do speak slowly and much more clearly with them, and everybody says, oh, we really appreciate it because you actually hear how the word is supposed to sound.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who just joined us on Computers 2K Voice.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
What's going on?
Not much.
It's Nick.
This is Nick.
What are you doing in the rain with the phone in your hand?
He's not going to
You
get
gotta do what you gotta
electrocuted.
do.
What?
There's no. You got to do what you got to do.
Oh, Nick.
That's
So,
awesome, Nick.
how many fish did you catch?
We caught a pike so far, a single pike.
Are you going to eat it?
No, we're not going to eat it.
Okay. Did you release it?
We did, yes. Catch and release.
Did it thank you?
It did. After we put a hole through its mouth, it thanked us.
Was
It's
it
just
a northern
smiled
pike?
as it swam away.
What, Nick?
Was it a-
What time did you get up to go there?
5 o'clock.
Oof.
Can you hear the birds tweeting in the background, Nick?
Can you really?
actually, yeah, we can hear something.
Yeah, it's probably the wind. It's windy and rainy.
So are you fishing or under a tent, or what are you doing?
We're on a boat. We're fishing. We're in the middle of the lake. It's raining. It's cold and it's windy. We've got ponchos on, but it's a lot of fun.
And you're fishing for northern pike?
We're just fishing in general.
'Cause that's an awesome fish to catch.
Yeah, it's not
It's
bad.
big. Yeah.
It's about a
Did
foot.
you see the picture of the one he posted it privately,
No,
Spencer?
I'm just using the Google
Oh.
Hangout app on my iPad, so I can't see it.
How did you know to get to the Hangout link?
I logged into Skype, but I unlogged in.
Okay, because he
What?
posted a link of a big old fish he caught.
Well,
Yeah,
so
that
I'm
was
not sure
it.
if I'll-
Emma could probably show it.
Yeah, well, he'll get it. It'll still be there. But what I've heard is for all the wackos who are concerned about hurting that fish's little mouth, that fish don't have nerve endings in their mouths and they heal very quickly.
Andrew, he's still talking to you.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to call and say hello.
Well, have a good time. What time are you getting home?
Not sure. Probably late.
Yeah. How far are you from home?
Probably half an hour or so.
Okay, well, that's good. It's good that you're that close to a lake.
Yep.
All right. So,
Nice.
well, have fun.
All righty, keep it buzzing, guys.
Yeah, catch a lot of them.
All right, will do. See you later.
Bye.
Yep.
I didn't recognize his voice.
I didn't initially.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm here, guys, to help you.
We appreciate. Don't think that we don't,
I don't
appreciate
believe that. I'm not appreciated.
Oh, you very appreciate it.
You'd be surprised, Mike.
No, people hate me. Andrew hates me.
So what else is going
That's
on?
Andrew, isn't it?
What else is happening?
Nothing. See ya.
All right.
No, the world is very stable right now, and people are using common sense to drive all their decisions, so everything is great.
I'm sorry. What page are you on? I'm past that page in the book.
Oh wait, that was the script from 1956.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm already past that. I've been binge watching. I can tell you how it ends. It's not good. So,
It's-
well.
By the way, I mean, just a little bit of non-technical. Mike, did you see that video that Sean posted about the Confederate flag? That it's not the Confederate flag?
Right.
That's
Battle-
very
Battle
interesting.
flag of Northern Virginia.
Right.
It was very, very interesting that it was the Confederate, I mean, partly for about 37 days,
Yeah.
but the quote unquote Confederate flag didn't look anything like it.
Right.
So it was just interesting. I mean, you were talking, I was going to say blame the problems on the Confederate flag.
Yeah. Well, don't confuse the issue with the facts.
No, I'm not. It was just interesting to see that. I mean, for me to learn this, it was
Yeah.
it was good.
It's like I've always been taught, never underestimate the stupidity of the American people.
All right. Now,
I'd expand that to say most people.
Well, there you go. Well, I can only speak from personal experience.
There are people who flaunt the stupidity of the American people, who actually know better but don't care.
Well, I will tell you that they're going to be. Look, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. My life hasn't been changed forever for the negative because of things that happened this week. Things are cyclical, and sometimes they come back to where they ought to be. Sometimes they don't. But the fact of the matter is that these things will go on, and I agree with what I've heard said before. Don't let your life be controlled by what the federal government does every day. You've got so much of your own business to take care of at home that once you're all done with all that, then worry about what the feds are doing. And the reason I say that is because I'll tell you guys something privately, but like yesterday we went over to one of our farms in the western part of the state, and for the first time between here and there, I saw 3 Confederate flags being flown. And these were not the Virginia battle flag. These were the original Confederate flags, which my wife, when she saw the first one, she said, "What kind of flag is that?" I said, "That is the official Confederate flag. That is the one that, if there is any association with racism, it would be that flag, and that would be the flag that people should object to. The one objecting to the Virginia battle flag is just ignorant." But they've got their minds are made up, and that's fine. And I wouldn't fly the flag. I do think it's divisive and unnecessary. But that also goes for a bunch of other flags that are still flying that I think are unnecessary and are disruptive to normal life. So, but nobody asked me.
All right. Well, let's go now to technical.
Well, actually, before you do that, Brent's got a good point.
Yeah.
Nick needs to come down to North Carolina and go fishing for sharks.
And you don't need a pole.
And it's almost like fishing in a barrel.
You can use a leg. Yeah, just use a leg for bait. Not that that's fun.
Well, if you have a Sprint phone, a few days ago, Sprint announced their intent to stop throttling certain customers' bandwidth in the wake of the FCC fining AT&T $100 million.
Well, there is that, yes.
For doing the same. Sprint has now begun circulating an internal memo to their frontline reps that the 12-month warranty on non-branded accessories, a feature selling point, will be eliminated. Additional rumors, and these are rumors, are emerging that Sprint may increase prices on unlimited data plans and stop offering wireline long-distance service. The title of the article was that Sprint is going to start punishing their customers. It's I don't know. I mean, it can be understood like that, but it's Sprint passing expenses to the customers, which is the way things work. But it's interesting that they will not. I mean, I think the worst thing about Sprint service so far, whenever we talked about it, was the throttling. And
I actually never heard that Sprint throttled. This is news to me. I knew that AT&T and Verizon were doing it, but Sprint, they were advertising true unlimited.
Yeah, and that's when people were mentioning that they were actually throttling it after so many.
Yeah.
And that's
well, I
why...
had unlimited with AT&T and gave it up. And by the way, for the record, as my wife and I were observing yesterday, the AT&T versus Verizon comparison with regard to who's the better carrier in our area, AT&T is better. I go many places where I have only one bar on Verizon. There were many fewer places with only one bar for AT&T.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Over by you, Mike, where my daughter has her townhouse now, is the Verizon service is very poor.
So,
I don't think I've ever, but then I don't watch. I don't think I've got Verizon, and I
never go anywhere, Amnon.
That's right.
Now, it's interesting because I have a story when I was coming back from Las Vegas, driving back, and I was in the middle of the New Mexico desert, and I called Amnon on my broadband connection, which was a 3G connection, and had a Skype conversation with Amnon driving 80 miles an hour, and it
And it
worked
was,
fabulous. Remember that,
yep,
Amnon?
yep, it was perfect.
Yep. But that's because there were no other users on the network. There was no, you'd see a car every 30 seconds, another car would go in the other direction.
Tony in the chat is saying, I'm glad I kept the old unlimited plan. It is now finally unlimited. So, yeah, they were doing all kind of trade. This reminds me of the dial-up days, unlimited. Oh yeah, you get so many hours. That's unlimited.
Well, it's an interesting thing that's happening here in my life, in that there's one thing that may happen in the next month or so, and if it does, I'm actually going to drop my data plan. I've monitored how much data I actually use, how much it would change my life, and now the analysis is whether, like, so as much as I do on Wi-Fi versus 4G,
right?
And I'm not so sure I can justify $40 a month for what I'm using it for. Part of it is, I'm a little too connected.
Well, the thing is, Mike, you have to have data with the smartphone.
No, not so.
But you
Get
don't
rid
have
of the
to have,
smartphone.
huh?
You don't have to have a smartphone.
Oh well, yeah, okay.
So, and then there are smartphones that don't even use 3G, 4G data, that are just Wi-Fi only. It's the AT&T and Verizon will not sell you. The problem with, as I understand it, you guys correct me if I am wrong, but excuse me, but if on AT&T and Verizon, the reason they won't sell you a data phone without a data plan is because of the subsidy. Now that they've gotten rid of the subsidies and you can buy it outright, I'm not so sure that they will let you. They may have changed the rule. I have, when I left AT&T, I was really optimistic that Verizon was going to be much better, because AT&T is terrible. And Verizon, they've been fine. I'm not really complaining, except for the company, which they're no worse than anybody else. But at this point in time, I have no allegiance to either one. And quite candidly, as little as I use goodbye, Spence.
Oops.
As little as I use the data or the voice, I'm almost willing to go with one of these outlier plans.
Well, at this point, I mean, it works both ways. People are using data, but they're using Wi-Fi most of the time, and it seems like the carriers will realize that, you know what, the 3G and 4G usage is actually not as bad. It's lower than it used to be because people are using Wi-Fi. Let's tell them that they have unlimited and give them unlimited. They're not going to use it. And the carrier that's going to do that is going to win. Because in most cases, wherever you are around town, what you're doing is you're going to be using Wi-Fi because it is faster. So it's just I mean, it can go both ways. Good morning, Brian.
Brian is saying in chat that he would look at going with a prepaid data plan. Well, who offers a prepaid data plan?
A lot of them do. I mean, any kind of
mostly smaller, mostly carriers that are add-on carriers, like the time you buy at Walmart or something like that. But they're not geographically, they're not all that great.
Right, but again, I'm monitoring over the last month and a half or so. I've been monitoring my data usage and pretending, what if I did not have a data plan?
You're with Verizon?
Yeah.
You know, you can just call them and say, what was my usage in the last 6 months?
That's not the point. And the point is, when you have something, you use it. And my question is more of, when I use it, my question is, what if I didn't have the data plan right now? How much would I be inconvenienced over what I'm doing at the moment if I didn't have a data plan?
Okay.
And because yesterday, for example, we were coming back from the western part of the state, my wife was using her phone to monitor something, some weather something, and then she set mine to monitor Weather Warn or whatever this ham network is. She had two phones sitting there using it. I mean, it was useful at that point in time. Did she have to do that? No. I mean, it wouldn't have been a big deal, but we had it so that we used it. And it was interesting to have all this. She's like Nick. She loves weather. And I don't know, I don't understand it. But anyway, it was kind of neat, of course, to be able to listen to WRA Liberal and listen to what Greg Fishhead was talking about with regard to this being canceled and this doing it, and then listening on the other one to the Sky, is it Skywarn? Is that what it is? The
Skywarn.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so listening to Skywarn and listening to what these guys talk about, which is amusing. A lot of these guys sound like they want to be podcasters because they get on there and sing a song, but it's interesting. And there were no touchdowns that were spotted by any of those guys that at the time that we were listening. But it's amazing that, for example, with the little distraction here, it's amazing here that with the Waves app on your phone, which requires a data plan, which she runs on her phone when we travel, and with being able to access the regional TV station if they can interrupt reality shows long enough to give critical weather updates, but then being also to listen to Skywarn or whatever it's called, and at the same time, it's amazing because she would say, "All right, we're getting ready to hit a cell in about a mile." Sure enough, in about a mile, you can't see the front end of the car. It's pretty interesting. Of course, they don't know what it's going to do tomorrow, but they know what it's going to do in 100 years when the weather goes up, temperature goes up 1.2 degrees Celsius.
Did you see the story that broke this week about now they're warning we're going into another little ice age?
Well, that's old and new. They do that all the time.
No, but I mean, suddenly now they're aware of this. But I think they're preparing what their story is going to be to explain in the context of man-made climate change, why this is happening.
Well, the question, but how is that Bush's fault? That's what they're trying to figure out.
Oh no, it's his fault. But the Maunder minimum and the Dolphin minimum are the last two periods of low solar activity, and they're saying that we've entered into already documented a period of low solar activity, and that we should really, one sane person said, we should be spending money on preparing people for being cold, not trying to prevent something that we have no control over.
And how should we do that? This would be fascinating to hear the rest of that conversation.
Yeah, well, he was saying that if the UN is going to spend trillions of dollars and redistribute wealth in such a way to prepare for some event, that maybe they should be looking for training people on how to grow different types of crops, because of climate changes will affect the way crops grow, and it'll affect like for heating. Why can't you invest in technology to improve insulation or heating efficiency or something like that that's going to be useful?
We're already doing all that.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, making rules that just raise the cost of everything.
Well, I mean, but some of those costs. Look, I'm not for more regulation. You know that, but for example, if I ever build a house, which I seriously doubt that I will ever do, but if I ever build a house, it's going to use this not blown in, but the spray foam insulation, because stuff is absolutely amazing, fascinating. Yes. It's
Canada, that's the standard.
Well, it's twice the cost of the regular stuff, but it's a one-time expense. Now,
and it works really well.
Do I think the government should be requiring people to use it? No.
Well, having just bought a new HVAC system, and what the new regulations are for efficiency and all that, and what the changes. It was actually a document that I got from a company that said, here are how our products are affected by these new regulations, and it's not just the fact that it costs more, but the units that you buy now are larger because of insulation requirements and efficiency requirements. That changes everything for builders, because certain things won't fit anymore.
Right.
If you go to buy a new hot water heater, you may not be able to find one that fits in the space you have now. And it's just, these are things that are going to affect people that they don't realize. Like, oh yeah, I get a new, more efficient hot water heater. That's great, and it only costs $100 more. Well, it's going to cost you $1,000 more to install it.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it's for the environment, Spence.
Oh, absolutely. I'll absolutely on board. I get up every morning and I look at the environment and I say thank you.
Yeah. Now, again, the UN's going to spend trillions of dollars training people to grow crops. Now, understand.
I don't want them to do it.
Well, understand though. I mean, to take the politics out of it. Let's just talk practicality here. Forget the politics, because the environment does change. It is not static. It's not the same temperature every day. We do have 4 seasons. Sometimes the seasons are better or worse than other years. It's been that way since the beginning of time, and no one is going to change that. We all agree that things do change. We do agree that they change on a global basis, because we have had ice ages. We have had interstitial periods between ice ages. During those times, the temperature changes. Sometimes those, as I recall, and I used to be a good friend with a guy who followed this stuff like the back of his hand, and he was an MIT graduate, very smart. But those periods, for example, that ice age, that 11,000 year cycle ice age, can last 1,000 years. So times do change, and as humans, we should use technology and education to adapt to whatever changes are necessary. What are you doing?
Yeah, Spence, what are you doing?
Sorry, it was something slid off where I'm sitting here.
Okay. But anyway, we need to adapt. But here's my question, and this is the question I would ask. What about let's assume that the United Nations decides to steal trillions of dollars from us and spend it to re-educate people how to grow crops. The absolute worst case scenario for temperature rise due to global warming, if you buy that, is 1.2 degrees Celsius. 1.2 degrees Celsius over the next 100 years.
How did we get into this?
Well, but here's the question. What are you going to teach people to do differently whenever, and no one who is alive will notice any difference in the environment to the extent that it would impact crops? Are they going to start teaching us for the benefit of our great-grandchildren? Because when the temperature really does go up, by the way, that 1.2 per century prediction has been on hold for 18 years because there has been no global warming. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, but the interesting thing is that it's all sent out there with very vague. Well, the reality is that it's about controlling. It's not about climate.
Well, now we're getting into politics.
Yeah, but the scientific side of it, if you understand the scientific method.
Let's not get into that.
Okay.
Let's not get into that. Let's not. I mean, we are way off now. But you're talking about controlling and control. There is a school system in Pennsylvania that is providing free lunches to school children as part of an initiative to improve nutrition. Instead of providing
politics.
No, it's not politics. Instead of providing the lunches to all students without question, they made the program opt-in. Since not all students get the lunches, they need a way to track who was getting them. Officials decided the best way to do so would be to invest in biometric software that scans students' thumbprints every time they pick up lunch. The data collected by these scanners goes not just to the school district, but to the federal government as well. So look how, I mean, these kids are going to be in a national database.
And
you know what? It's funny. We talk about how technology affects all this, and
right,
all these programs rely on technology to be implemented, because you would never be able to do this stuff without having that type of a granular approach. So technology for all its benefits, here is being abused.
Right,
Same
but the thing is, why does this information need to go, the thumbprints? Why do they need to go to the federal government? I mean, the school need to
because the federal
report.
government is the one that gives the money out for
That's
these
fine.
lunch programs.
So all the school has to do is provide the names of the kids and how many lunches they gave out, which is how they do it these days. Here, this is just for the school's benefit. The way that I understand it is to know who's getting it and who's not getting it, instead of them showing a card or whatever, or the cafeteria person checking it on a ledger. This is just a way to use technology to identify them. Why does this need to go? Why do the thumbprints need to go to the federal government? What is the federal government business with thumbprints of school-age kids that are getting lunches? There is something behind it somewhere. And that's the problem with this, when you take technology and you abuse it, in my opinion.
Well, they don't know what they need the information for now, but they will do in the future.
Yeah.
Let's start to collect information about the future generation so that when we want to impose some new rule or monitor something, we'll have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to join us, 919-518-9773 or Computers 2K Voice on Skype.
An interesting issue came up driving north yesterday and riding through the toll corridors of 95 and all that, and how people are objecting now. The Easy Pass is a great idea. It makes it so easy to travel. You don't wait in a queue to pay tolls. You just zip right through. But people are unhappy now because some states are starting to collect, using Easy Pass can monitor your speed. Because they say, okay, you went through this gate at this time, you went through that gate at that time, you covered so much distance in this time, you're going too fast. So now, they don't do it yet, but they will be able to issue speeding tickets to people based on their Easy Pass use, which is not in, I don't know that it's in the terms and conditions. I have a North Carolina Easy Pass now. I don't have the New York one like I used to. And I don't know what's in the terms and conditions as far as using that information. But think about an unintended consequence of technology, and what is a great benefit for one thing could really be a imposition in another.
The technology that they're using that in the UK at the moment, under most freeway bridges, they've got cameras and sensors for global positioning and for traffic control and things like that. And you can get a ticket automatically through the post if you're speeding. They can pinpoint between one bridge and the next that you were going too fast.
And sometimes your first reaction to that is, yeah, let's get those speeders, because it drives me crazy when you go whizzing past you or driving through traffic like they're NASCAR or something. But then you think about, from a civil liberties perspective, where that could go. It's now they know how fast I'm going, and now they know where I'm going.
Well,
I think there was a case recently where, I don't know if it was a murder case or something like that, where they actually were able to prove that a guy who said he was somewhere at some given time was not really there, because they were able to gather information from Easy Pass to say that, well, you said you got off here to go there at such and such a time. Well, no, Easy Pass says that you did it 2 hours earlier than you claim. And they were actually you were able to use it in a court case.
What's wrong with stopping and throwing a quarter in there, or 2 quarters, or whatever?
Oh, you haven't driven through New York in a while, Amnon. Unbelievable how long it can take to go through some toll booths, because people pull up with, you have change of a 50, or I can't find the, I'm short 10 cents, and digging through the glove compartment, and just, it's Easy Pass makes it so easy to zip through, literally.
Well, that's but that's the thing is, I mean, I haven't been up there in a long time, but when I was living up there, I used to travel a lot up north and down south, and I found that it gave me a chance to break that monotony of driving on a freeway. It's like,
Well, you still
okay,
have to,
now you
in a
talk
lot
to
of
some.
cases, you still have to slow down to go through the speed pass sensors. And only in some cases do they have these wide open ones that you can just roar right
How do
through.
they control that?
Well, the older toll booths that have just a single narrow opening,
Yeah.
you have to
Okay.
slow down to go through those because if you hit it at 65, gosh, you're not taking a chance. But like the Jersey Turnpike, for example, when you get on it, if you stay to the left, it's just a big 3-lane wide open arch that you drive under,
Right.
and you go full speed through it. If you have to stop and get a ticket, then you have to go through a traditional toll booth.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, technology.
And what happens when they offer that information about your speed to your insurance company and or your location to the insurance company? When you claim, well, I only drive 15 miles a day to and from work, that's it. And they regularly monitor you driving 40 miles a day away from your home. And the insurance company goes, well, all these years you've been lying to us and we've been giving you a rate based on this. We're going to give you a retroactive fee increase. I'm just thinking, what could this stuff be twisted into being used for?
Don't give them ideas. Don't give them ideas.
I know.
I think that's the whole point, though, isn't it? The more data they're able to collect and then spread around and correlate, the more they can restrict you.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
The UK has been crowned the best in the world when it comes to mobile broadband, offering average 3G and 4G speeds of more than twice that of its nearest rival.
Yeah, we do pretty good, actually.
Are you using the 3G or 4G on your phone?
No, I don't have a smartphone. Well, I've got a smartphone that's capable of mobile broadband, but it's such an old phone. It's an old Symbian phone, so I've disabled that. And if I have used it, it's Wi-Fi. I've been thinking about getting an updated smartphone, but the price is ridiculous. I don't want to pay £200 for a phone that's sort of half decent with decent processor and RAM. I have got a dongle, which is 3G. And when I've been at my father's for any length of time and I've had the money to do it, I've bought a voucher which gives you so many gigabytes over, say, a 30-day period. And that works quite effectively.
But Steve, think about it. You could get your mobile broadband, you update your phone, get high-speed mobile broadband, and you could be zipping down the M1 watching 4K on Netflix.
Well, I just wouldn't be able to stand that kind of excitement, Spence.
Oh, you could just stick it right up there on the dashboard and watch your favorite show while you're driving.
No, it's I lead a much quieter life than that. Too much excitement, it gets me all het up. Jorvik is in the UK, he's in the north of England, and he uses a smartphone and dongles. He's a good friend of mine. He goes camping a lot in the summer, and he's got a 4G dongle and uses that regularly. Gets very good signals.
So, Jorvik, what kind of limit do they have on that dongle? And in general, I mean, when you have those high speeds, is it something like that you only get 1 gigabyte? Do you know, Steve, how many?
No, Mike is his name, Jorvik. Last time I spoke to him, I think he was saying he was getting something like 8 gigabytes down and 4 up.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the speed. I'm talking about the limits. The
limits. Yeah, I think it depends which contract you have. You can have unlimited if you pay a fairly big upfront monthly fee, or you can buy, depending if you've got a pay-as-you-go, as we call them. So you pay as you go along, which is what I've got. You basically buy a voucher that lasts you for a month, and you can either buy 1, 2, or 3 gig, or more if you want to. But it costs you more depending on how many gig you buy. But your monthly fee, I think for something like 1 or 2 gig, it's about £25 a month if you had that in your smartphone. Yeah, Jorvik's saying unlimited data on the plan that he's got.
Yeah, well, that's nice. And how much does it cost to Jorvik? It'll be interesting to know.
£35, I think.
And you have unlimited, and do you monitor? Do you know how much are you actually using? It'll be interesting to see. I mean, because we have unlimited right now on Verizon. When I went to get the last phone, I was saying, okay, let's see if we can cut back on the expenses. And he says, well, the only place that we can cut is on data. Let's check. And turns out I don't even use 1 gigabyte. And Kathy's not using but about 1/4 gigabyte. Hannah is using about 2. So he said, well, you can cut back. I still didn't do it. I mean, it will save about $70 a month, but I hate. And you said, but it's unlimited. I don't want to do away with it. And then you think, well, I'm really not doing much with it, because in most cases it's Wi-Fi wherever you go.
Ulrich's saying it's unlimited data, costs £15 a month, and also free calls and unlimited texts.
Yeah,
if that's the case, it would actually pay me to get rid of my landline phone, which costs me, I think, nearly £17 a month just for the rental of the landline, and go with a £15 a month mobile broadband.
Wow, 38.8 down and 14.4 up. Jeez.
That beats my my broadband connection at home, hands down.
Nice.
And the thought that you can do that wherever you are without having to be tethered to a cable or a line is amazing.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, when I had a company account that paid for my mobile broadband, I had a 3G dongle, and as well as a Cradle Point or Candle Point or something like that. Had these little routers that you could, portable routers that you could buy, that you would plug in your broadband card and then make it into a mobile hotspot. And I used to use it for business, because I go to these trade shows where they would offer Wi-Fi for participants in the show, and it was so clogged with garbage and extra networks and all that, it was unusable. So I would use my broadband connection to power my demonstration, which was IP telephony over the broadband. It worked great because nobody was using it. But it was when somebody else paid for it, it was a great deal. But when I had to pay for it, that's when I dropped.
I think things will be different now, though, won't they? The thing is, in some areas, especially on some big events, the 3G and 4G just gets swamped, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As well as Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi will do too. But yeah, we do seem to be at the forefront at the moment. All the underground system in London is covered by 3G, and there's so much switching over to 4G now. It's amazing.
I had it off on my iPhone for a while, because in the beginning it would drain the battery pretty quickly, because the 4G wasn't all that, the signal strengths weren't all that great. And now the coverage is so much better, I leave 4G on all the time. And I love the fact that it's so much faster, especially when I'm loading a map. I do a lot of traveling around town as part of my job and have to find addresses, so I'll use mapping on my phone to find it. So it's nice when it loads so quickly.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here?
I'm gonna bow out at 10 when the guest comes on. So
that's fine. Microsoft Office is now available for Android smartphones. Despite Microsoft mobile first, cloud first philosophy, it has actually taken some time to bring the world's most popular Office suite to Android phones. It joins the tablet version of the suite that was released last year. Just like the tablet edition, the phone version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint won't cost you a penny, allowing for the viewing and editing of a range of files when on the move. There is a cloud focus with support for not only OneDrive, but also Google Drive, Dropbox, and Box. And Microsoft says it has made changes based on the feedback received during the preview period. So you can get Microsoft Office for your phone, or actually better, for a tablet. I mean, I can see somebody actually doing things on their little phone with Office, but I guess people do. Which one of you would use it?
I use a form of it now. I have a spreadsheet that's a way of keeping track of my hours for my logbook
Right.
or CDL that runs on my phone, that I plug in the numbers. That way when I finish the day with my logbook, I can check my math and make sure everything works. It's a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet.
I haven't used an Office suite. I was saying to a friend yesterday, I haven't used an Office suite for about 3 years now. Back when I needed to use a spreadsheet and proper word processing and things, I had an old version of Microsoft Office. I think it was 2003. But in the last 3 years, I haven't needed to. Notebook and WordPad's been fine for any sort of technical things that I've needed to make look nice as far as output from the computer go.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see myself doing anything with the word processor or spreadsheet or PowerPoint on a phone. A bigger tablet, probably. Here's another one that we can talk about. In 2011, an anonymous person on the internet posted a comment to the Freeport Journal Standard newspaper's website implying that a local political candidate was a pedophile. The candidate, Bill Hadley, took offense to this and tried to get Comcast to tell him who the commenter was. Comcast refused, so Hadley took it to the courts. The Illinois Supreme Court has now ruled that Comcast must divulge the commenter identity. Illinois' opinion was based on large part on a pair of earlier lower court decisions in the state, which held that the anonymity of someone who makes comments in response to online news stories isn't guaranteed if their opinions are potentially defamatory, according to Don Craven, an attorney for the Illinois Press Association. And I mean, in this case, I like that. You shouldn't be able to just go up there on the net and post blog messages, posts here and there about somebody that it could hurt them, where you have no basis for it. If you do, I mean, it has to be both. The street has to be two-way. If you going to do it, you have to be able to make it possible for the person you're accusing to get in touch with and say, where did you get this information? What are you talking about?
Well, especially when it's such a thing as an illegal offence, such as he was being accused of, and that it can be extremely damaging. So yes, there should be repercussions for that.
Absolutely. If you are lying, you should be prosecuted if the person that you are falsely accusing or lying about, chooses to do so. And you can't just hide behind any anonymous name or pseudonym that nobody can find you. And Comcast, I'm glad that they said that Comcast has to give it out.
And when did the incident happen and the court case decide? It was quite a long time, wasn't it?
Well, in the Supreme Court just decided that they have to give it up. To divulge their identity. But the thing happened in 2011, so it was just before the 2012 elections.
Who's to say that Comcast still have that information? I mean, how long did they hold on to the information of the IP and who it belongs to?
Well, I guess I mean, he probably turned around and asked Comcast to do it and started proceedings back then. And at
Right,
that
okay.
point, they have to save it.
Right, got you. Okay.
I'm saving logs of different customers that have court cases, and they want to show. I mean, I've got stuff back from the 90s to just I have to save that piece of log, so I have it on a different drive, and it's there. But I can't do away with it until the case is over and the log is in a bunch of different people's hands. It's not a big deal, you know. It's text, so it's fine. But it's if something happens, you have to show that there it is. There are some duties that an ISP has to have toward that have when you're dealing with the public.
Of course,
Mike,
nowadays it doesn't matter anyway because all data is kept for eternity, isn't it?
yeah, but you have to find it. Mike, what is your opinion about it? Hi, Tracy.
What is my opinion about
About that case that
whether they should give it up?
yeah.
Well, my opinion is who gets to decide.
Well, the Supreme Court decided.
Okay, so every time somebody makes a nasty remark on the internet, we're going to take it to the Supreme Court?
Well, no. Now remember, that's what I was saying. That here is a political candidate who was accused in something. I mean, this is serious to say he's a pedophile, because at this point, people can come and sue him. Oh, you spent time with my kid, so I'm going to take you to court now because you did something wrong. I mean, this is not just saying something nasty about somebody. This is really bad. And
Well,
if
it's what we call a slippery slope. It's very clear in this case, but is it so clear in the next case? And what about the one after that?
well, possibly not. And at that point, if it's important enough, like it was for this guy who took it to the courts and followed until it got to the Supreme Court, then they will decide. I mean, in most cases, somebody says nasty things about you, and I know there were nasty things say about me here and there. That you just brush it aside, and who cares? It's not going to hurt. But something like this is bad, and
Yeah.
but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, when does it stop? True.
Yep. And we'll talk maybe next week about some of the unintended consequences of decisions rendered by this court this past week. And I think that people who are unhappy about certain things are going to become happier, and the ones who are happy about things are going to become unhappy. So time will tell. The big problem with the law, Amnon, and the reason that you will see so many people say, yeah, it sounds good, but they're not trying to rain on your parade, is that politics and the law seem to be extremely susceptible to the law of unintended consequences, because you're dealing with a large number of people, a broad spectrum of interest in things, and when you pass a law, say, wow, this is great, this solves this problem, and unfortunately you solve one, create two. So that's why we avoid these slippery slopes. Some answers and understandings that we have about things are not perfect, never have been, never will be, but they might be better than the alternative. It's like trading a headache for a stomach ache for a toothache. Which one do you prefer?
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen,
All right.
I'm going to take off.
All right,
As am I.
Spence. All right.
But I'll be listening. But I've got some things I've got to finish up here in a minute. So enjoy. I'll be looking forward to hearing Tracy.
All right. Okay, guys. We'll talk
Take
to
care.
you.
We'll see you.
Speak to
See
you next
ya.
week, Spence, Mike.
All right.
Hello,
Thank you.
Tracy.
Have a good week, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Fine. We're not getting your video on. Oh, there you are.
Here I am.
Okay.
What was that? Was that a hangout?
This is a hangout.
But before that, what you got? Is that part of your thing?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about different things.
Oh.
I mean, um, the story that was there is that an ISP was it was decided by the Illinois Supreme Court that an ISP has to divulge the identity of a blogger who made a statement in a blog back in 2011 who called who accused a political candidate of being a pedophile.
Oh, wow.
And normally, I mean, ISPs will not divulge identity of their users unless a court order, unless there's a good reason for it. Yeah.
Right, right.
Some
So that's
ISPs give up the information just off pat, and they don't fight it. But some of the bigger ISPs do fight it and do wait for a court order.
Oh,
well
wow.
in our terms and conditions here. I state that if the police come over with a warrant, I'll give it out. I mean, because you know that at the end of the line, I'm going to be made to give it out. So
Right.
I don't think anybody who, again, it has to be something serious for somebody to follow and take it to court and all that. If somebody's saying, "Oh, he sucks," well, so okay, he said that, big deal.
Right.
But something like this, to accuse somebody of being a pedophile, that's a life changing
Pretty, yeah,
thing.
pretty
If,
big
if
deal.
if you don't fight it, yep. All right.
So now, how come I don't get to see you guys? Do you want me on video
Okay.
or not?
Steve, we never see. We don't know what Steve looks
Oh,
like.
Okay, okay.
You don't get to see me because of CPU load on
Bandwidth
the machine.
kind of thing.
If
Yeah,
I do
okay.
it, I go shoot way up, way up.
Okay. Okay. But you want me on video?
Oh yeah, because I want you to talk to our people. And let me just introduce you. Tracy Goodwin is a voice expert, storytelling that captivates. And you know how to excuse me, you know how to talk. Tracy is the owner of Captivate the Room. It's captivatetheroom.com. Started speaking and winning awards at the age of 12. She later went on to become a professional actor for many years after receiving a BFA in directing. In addition to her BFA, Tracy holds an MA in child drama and an MA in corporate communications. Tracy is a true expert in voice technique, presentation, and storytelling skills and has been for over 20 years. People all over the world seek her out for her expertise, but she really loves building massive confidence in people, helping them get grounded in and find their core message, giving them the courage to share it, and of course, the technique necessary to speak it beautifully. Her voice training is game changing for actors, speakers, podcasters, and all ages. Tracy core teaching concept is all about building confidence, learning to be vulnerable through voice technique, and of course, captivating the room every time, no matter the venue, the audience size, or the message. And you can be found always at www.captivatetheroom.com. So I'll give you the stage and let you start, and then I have some questions.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
We're excited to
would you
have
like
you.
me? Oh, good, good. What would you like me to tell you first?
I want you to
Because
just.
once I get going, it's hard to stop me.
Yeah, that's fine. You just go. You just go. I want you to feel comfortable. You are part of this group now, and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, the main thing that I always talk about is obviously confidence and voice and presentation, and that's one of the things that I've just recently started doing Hangouts myself. How long have you been doing Hangouts? A long time?
Well, I don't know, probably about a year, maybe a little, no, 2 years.
No, 2 years, longer than that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys are in the pioneer group.
Well, we're
Oh,
techies.
Shucks, thank you.
Well, I just started doing them a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of months ago. And I've always done YouTube videos, and I don't do, I shudder to say this, I don't do a podcast yet. But, one of the things that I'm finding when I do my Hangouts and the feedback that I get from Hangouts is there's so much fear around all of the pieces that I teach. People are just so traumatized. It really is the number one fear still, public speaking. And that's the thing that I guess just breaks my heart the most, is that it just doesn't have to be, because if people have the confidence and the skill set, they can get their message out. But, people are just traumatized by, I know tons of people that would love to do Hangouts, love to do videos, love to do podcasts, would be phenomenal, terrified, can't even consider it. And that's a shame, because everybody in the world needs to hear everybody's message. You have a message, I have a message, Steve here has a message, and there's somebody out there that needs to hear that message. So, I'm kind of on a crusade to get people past the fear of public speaking, because, well, that's just one of my missions, but because it's so freeing when you get to the other side and you can do things like this,
Yeah. Okay, so what is it about the voice that is so important?
Well, voice is truly my expertise and truly the thing I love the most. And it is the power piece. It is the piece that is the most powerful and the most neglected. I want to tell you a really quick story that I love. I had this client one time. He was a really successful sales guy, and he came to me to get rid of an accent. And we're working along, and one day in the middle of the day, my phone rang, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I finally get it. Products don't sell, voices do." And it was like, yeah, because the power of the voice, one, it carries the message. Two, if you know how to use it, you can get anything you want. You can engage people, you can educate people, you can sell to people. It's so powerful if you know how to use it.
And a lot of people don't know how to use it in that case.
Well, it's interesting. I say don't know how to use it, but what I've really discovered over the years is people are afraid to let their voice out. So when I say don't know how to use it, I might be thinking in my mind, because I think in the, it's like going to a heart doctor. They think in their specialty. I'm thinking in my specialty, like articulation. Some people might not know how to get the words out, but really, it can be anything. It can be lack of variety. Like you have great variety, by the way. You're really great to listen to. But the college professor, and I always hate to use that, I don't want to offend anybody, but the college professor or whoever that everybody's, they have a reputation that everybody's going to fall asleep in his or her class because they keep everything on one note. Well, they're smart, they're genius, they're all of this. But if they could add some variety in their voice, they would have a much more powerful impact. So little bits like that. Obviously, everybody knows how to use their voice. But to really step into that voice power and to really be able to connect with people, that's what I'm talking about.
Can you help me get Steve's accent?
No way. It's beautiful. I could listen to that all day.
I think a big problem is going to be for a lot of people is they're shy, as you say, they're not confident, and they're frightened of making a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, and if you learn from your mistakes, then that's great. Now with the internet, with the way things are, and people with podcasts, if you can overcome your shyness and build some confidence that your voice sounds good, as you say, it's such a fantastic tool. But then when you add video to it, like in my case, for instance, I've got the perfect voice for radio, but
Mhm.
you know, I'm terribly ugly. That's why I don't come onto camera.
Now, I'm finding that hard to believe.
Yeah,
That's
don't
what I
believe it.
say anyway.
But you're spot on. You just nailed the whole core of my entire existence, Steve, in one sentence. It's that we don't use our voice, we don't use our power, we have this fear because of vulnerability. Because the minute I open my mouth right now in this moment, I'm running the risk of being judged. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I sound horrible, and then, like you say, you get on video and then maybe I look horrible. So it's all about vulnerability. And that's truly where all these voice hangups come from, is we hold on so tight to not let our voice out because of that fear of what people are going to think.
Yeah, it's human nature for any individual is going to want everyone else to like them. It's not always possible.
Of
Not
course.
everyone is going to like you for the way you look or the way you sound or the way you say something in a particular way. Everyone's going to have their own opinion, and it's human nature to want everyone to like and agree with your opinion. And of course, sometimes, especially on podcasts, you're giving your opinion about what the way you think about the way things should be done, and there's going to be thousands of people out there that don't agree with you, and that nags at you at the back of your head.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. We see it all the time. And the part of the tragedy is not people not having the courage to go ahead and step into that and be okay with that. But I get it on so many levels. I see it every time I'm brought into a company to work on voices. The thing that I instantly see is people are terrified to say what they need and want to say. And that can be, hey, I don't like the way you're filing the papers, or it can be a marketing idea or a strategy. So it's so freeing when you get on the other side. But I was on not a podcast, a hangout several months back about for online courses. I have some online courses on Udemy, and the very first question that came through was, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. How am I going to do this? So I think we're all hypercritical. I work with actors, some of the most, some beautiful people, great voice, all of it. Same way. I'm not, I'm worried about the way I look. I'm worried about the way I sound. So I think you're right. I think it is just human nature, because who doesn't want to be accepted? Who doesn't like that feeling of I'm giving worth, I matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't think I've met anybody that has said I sound great on a recording. I think the vast majority, probably 99% of people say I sound terrible on the microphone. And
Yes.
that is an initial bash to your confidence anyway, so you need to get over that.
Well, and so much of that, this is what I tell my clients, so much of that is in your mind. You've convinced yourself of that. And I can make just a couple of tweaks with someone, and that first of all, they don't sound bad. Second of all, we make a couple of tweaks to get their voice out, and they sound better. But it becomes about this concept that I call the dings versus the victory box. And we tend to work in the ding box. And so if we're always focusing on the dings, oh, our voice is horrible. Oh, we sound terrible. Oh, nobody wants to listen to us. Well, we've got to switch that. We've got to find the good in it. Whether that means find the good in it on our own or get some help and work on it, we've got to switch it over to the victory box. If
it's
that
all
makes
about
sense.
Negatives and positives, and if you concentrate on the positives, it's the same with most things in life. If you're always looking at the bad things, then you're only going to think about the bad things and concentrate on that. If you start to look
Absolutely.
at the good points in your successes, then you can move forward. But you'll never move forward if you're going to stay with the negatives.
Well, and I think, like you said earlier, human nature, I think it's just human nature. You get 99 great reviews, you get one bad one. Where are you going to focus? The bad one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think, I think that's part of why so many people are running around the world miserable because they're focusing on that one negative, when there really are 99 positives. But you have to flip and look over at the victories and get your mind off the dings, And if you do that enough, then you really start to focus on the victories, and the ding box just kind of disappears. But life dings us. Life dings us all day long, bosses and coworkers and controlling mothers and, ex-husbands. And I mean, just all day, the guy at the grocery store that, nearly cut us off or whatever. We've got to switch our focus. I call it a reframe.
I think when you talk to most people that are in an influential position, or they're a movie star, or they're a personality, very few of them actually look at any comments and reviews anyway. And
True.
That's a good way to do it. I mean, yes, it's good to look at some comments sometimes, but as soon as you start to get to some that are negative, or just downright wrong, then stop reading them.
Yeah. Well, that happened to me years ago when I did the eHow videos. I did all these videos for eHow. I didn't realize when I did them that they were going, what a huge deal it was going to be. And there were, I didn't know what a troll was. I guess there's these guys that just, they sit on the internet all day and write horrible comments on videos. And of course, the trolls hit my videos, and it devastated me. And that devastated me that it devastated me. And so I had to step back and really reframe, okay, is that a valuable comment or not? Is that something, you have to ask yourself, is that a valid adjustment? Should I do that? Should I consider that? And if it's not, then you have to be able to just go, okay, well, he can think whatever he wants to think. So I think you're right again.
Yeah, if it's constructive criticism, that's always welcome.
Right.
But you need to realize that it's constructive criticism against a troll. And
Right.
sometimes some people find that really difficult to do, because they just look at the negativity and not necessarily, hang on, if what they're saying is in some way true, we could work on this.
Right. Well, and I think so many people, myself included, I've really had to work on this. We just take things so personal. The first 2 years I was in New York, I cried because I'm not from New York. And, they would say, are you on the line or what? And, I would just, oh my gosh, I would just be devastated. And so I think we do tend to automatically, it had nothing to do with me. She wanted to know if I was on the line, but I think that's kind of almost a knee jerk. We because of that negative concept, oh my gosh, people don't like me. People think I'm bad. I'm not any good at this. I'm never going to do this anymore. So it really is so much reframe. And really, I've always known this. I've always taught this, but I see it more and more every day. The psychology is so linked to the voice, not only to the way we sound, but to our words. There's got to be, in all of the voice work I do now, whether it's with an actor or a Fortune 500 executive, there's got to be some reframe going on here. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? We've got to adjust that so you can get the words out and get them out beautifully. It's all interconnected.
Tracy.
I don't have the phone number in front of me, Amnon, so because I'm on the Hangout.
Oh, yeah.
I can't run two things.
919-518-9773. Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Tracy, so what are the most crucial tips for improving your voice? And don't tell me drink a couple of eggs before you start talking.
Oh, gross. No. Well, getting the words out is one thing. And part of that comes from dropping the jaw. We tend to, everybody holds tension in their face. They hold tension. Most people, a lot of people don't even do it. They don't even realize that they do it. But they don't get the words out. They hold, it's as if they're holding on to the words with a vice grip to not let them out. You have to drop your jaw. You have to get the words out. The words have to come out of your mouth. Because if we don't hear them, if we don't understand them, we're going to check out. The brain tells us every 90 seconds to check out. Well, if you give us an opportunity to make that easier, that's not good. So, but I hate the word articulation because people say, well, you need to articulate. So what people do with that is they start doing this, and that's not how we want you to talk. But getting the words out, opening your mouth, dropping your jaw, getting your words out. Breathing is crucial for so many reasons. I could spend the rest of the hangout on breathing, but one of the most important ways is connecting to the words so that when they come out of your mouth, they come out truthfully, vulnerably, and can affect me. That's what we're looking for. If it's just words, words can't always touch me right here. But what you do with those words, when you connect with them and become vulnerable, then you can touch me right here. And that's when I'm going to take the action that you want me to take. Those are a couple of things. Gosh, I could probably go on and on. I think probably if I was going to give one more, I would say variety is important. Not flatlining, finding the variables of highs and lows and fast and slows and pacing and elongating words and, really using words like adjectives and involving the senses in them with your voice, if that makes sense. Color the words for me. Make me feel how hot that fire is. Make me know the kind of anger that you're feeling. Are you seething? Are you furious? They're different. So variety, I think, is really important to keep the audience engaged. So those would probably be my 3 big top tips for people to take away.
All right. When we started the show, somehow the conversation went a little bit about enunciate. Where is that?
Well, enunciate is, I throw in the articulation family, and this is my take on articulation. People throw out that word. People will come to me, speakers will come to me, and they'll say, well, I did this for my husband last night, and he says I need to articulate, or I did this for my coworker yesterday, and she says I need to articulate. And I say, what does that mean? Well, I guess it means I need to get the words out. Well, articulation and enunciation really are made up of several things. One, you have to, but like I talked about in just a second ago, you've got to drop that jaw. You have to visualize the words coming up and down. Also, there's a concept that I teach called drive to the end. And Americans are probably, I don't know, maybe everybody's the worst about this because I work with people from all over the world. But we've become a culture of lazy speakers, if you will. And I don't mean to criticize. But we know what we're talking about. So we just kind of, we kind of let the end of the words go down. Because I know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? So everything goes down.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. And I'm like, what, like if I say, where are you going? What? What did you just say? So we have to drive to the ends of the words. To me, that's the core of articulation, that I go to the end of the words. I don't have to say, I'm going to the party, but I need to say, I'm going. And we drop 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 those endings. That, to me, when you say enunciation or articulation, is one of the core pieces. I teach it to everybody that shows up at my door. They don't even realize that they're doing it. Well, they do after I say, what is this? So driving to the end, and then PTKD endings, you don't want to slam them, but they need to be heard. Especially in what I have really found over the years, because it's become such a global economy. I was working with people on the other side of the globe 10 years ago, but now it's commonplace. I do it all day long. I'm working with 9 different countries right now, right here, where I live. And, I think that these concepts are especially important when you start looking at people that have a different accent. Because already we're having to tweak our ear because that's as an okay, or whoever, as an American, I'm not used to that Indian accent. As an Indian, they may not be used to the Russian accent. So we've got this whole global thing going on. We need to be getting our words out clearly. So Drive to the End has really been a powerful concept for the people that I work with that are not Americans. Or I mean, maybe they're Americans, but they're not Native American speakers.
All right. Charles in the chat is asking, saying, do you guys, I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the way people speak, such as the way they enunciate words, or even which words are accented. Do you train people to speak in a common way?
Yes. That's stress and word weight. That's stress and word weight. And I tell you what, I had the coolest experience on Friday. I work with a fella. He came to me to work on his accent. He's from Mexico. And we were working on, kept saying he's done an amazing job. I mean, he's really worked hard and his accent is virtually gone. I don't think you can completely take an accent away because it lays in the muscle memory, but that's something different. But he was pronouncing this, he was reading this line, and it just totally had this Latin feel. And I said, put the stress on the word before it. He did. Completely sounded American. So that's about where to put stress, where to put word weight. And then I could even get into words that, okay, is that an English language word? Because it sounds like a text abbreviation that you're speaking to me in. I think the whole way we speak to each other has morphed into text talk and not proper grammar and not word weight and not stress and not cadence. And yes, I absolutely work with people on that. And I think if you really want to talk about stepping into your power and using your voice, like I started with today, you need to sound articulate and like you confident and like you know what you're talking about. If you're doing, if you're doing like that, I mean, never gonna. I mean, no, who's gonna be impressed with that? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, will you hire me? You gonna hire me now?
I'd turn off in 5 seconds.
Yeah. And Steve, that's what happens to me. I try to watch. You guys are great, both of you. But I'll try to watch webinars to learn. My albatross is marketing, and I'll try to sit and watch these webinars. I can't stand it. I mean, it's probably like Martin Scorsese watching a movie. I mean, I don't know, but people are, there's just so much more power when, your following is great. Your following could be off the hook if we could understand you.
I think a lot of it, you have to put some passion in your voice. And if you know the subject you're talking about, that's going to give you confidence too. If you're thrust into a situation where you have to talk about something which you're not really that up on, you're going to falter straight away. You're setting yourself up to fail. You have to know about what you're talking about, be confident in it, and put some passion into it. Otherwise, it's just, as you said earlier, it's just monotonous.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's two ways you can go about that. You can go about it I mean, yes, you need to know what you're talking about. I'm a huge fan of practice. I'm a huge fan of preparation. All of that is crucial. But I think even in day-to-day conversations, you can still be powerful. And there's two ways you can go about it. You can go about it with an organic approach, with passion and fire and enthusiasm. And, there's a technique called movie in the head, where you visualize what you're talking about, and you really connect with people that way. Believe it or not, there's tremendous number of people that they can't work that way. So that's where technique is so cool, that I can lay all of that in, but then we round it out, we level it out and make it your own. But I taught a class last week, and I'm just going on and on about variety, and you do this and you do that. And then they started asking questions, and I realized they had no idea what variety was. They thought variety was cadence, the rhythm of your voice. No highs, no lows, no louds, no softs. So you can lay it in a technique way, but you have to be able to make it your own. But yes, of course, ideally that, it's an organic passion. But if you can't feel it and express it, how is the audience going to? You're working, you're climbing up a hill with an albatross around your neck. You're making it so much harder. When really, once you get this, you've got it. People will say to me, I'll teach things, and they'll say, do you do that all the time? All the time. Been doing it all the time for 30 years. Do you think about it? Never. Because it's there. And once it's there, it's there. And the best part about it is once we start laying it in, that's what gives you the confidence, because you see the result and you go, oh, cool. Look at what I did. And that's where the confidence comes in.
Okay.
I think most salespeople can pretend to be enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's great, but we're pretty smart. And unless there is true vulnerability, it's a mask.
Yeah,
and we feel it. Yeah, we see through it. We feel it. I get it all the time. Oh, let me give you a 30-minute free session. The free session is all about selling me. It's a mask. Where somebody else might do a free session and they don't even mention it. We really have to. I think that the world is at a place right now where we're really ready for authentic. We're really, maybe we got away from it for a while. Maybe we didn't. I don't know. This might just be my opinion and impression. But I think that the internet and everything has gotten so crowded that people are once again looking for something to set them apart. And authenticity, vulnerability, something that we fight tooth and nail, will, I guarantee you, set you apart, because you will touch lives.
Being authentic will set you apart without even trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because there's, I see it on the internet, and I don't know, I guess I'm sure I see it in life, but I really notice it the most in online business. It's just this slick flash in the pan, sell, buy. There's no connection. But I think I really have noticed it lately, especially women and the millennials. They're looking for something authentic. They don't want that other stuff. And I think it's great, because I think real is scary, but real is how we connect. And I think people are really looking for connections now more than ever.
Jean in the chat is asking now, to speak with passion, don't you have to be really passionate about what you're talking about, unless you're an actor, of course?
That's a great question. Not if you know technique. Yes, ideally it's great to be passionate about what you're talking about. But let's face it, sometimes the boss at work is going to hand you something to do a presentation on, and you're like, are you kidding me? Or maybe you have to do a training, or it could be anything. Even in your own business, you can, if you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, you might have to give a presentation that you just are not connected to the material. And that's truly where technique comes in. You can learn to utilize the power of your voice, highs, lows, variety, articulation. You can learn all those techniques, and you can connect to that. It's kind of like a backdoor way in. So you connect to that and you create a passion that otherwise might end up being what I call flatline if you have nothing. Yeah, obviously it's great to find to love what you're talking about, but that's not always the option. But I don't think flatlining is ever an option if you want to engage and captivate your audience, and that's what we do, whether we're selling or not. We're teaching, or we always want something to occur when we speak and present and teach. And if you flatline, if you can't connect to anything, we can't connect to you. So if if there's no connection to the material, then let's connect to the technique of delivery, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does. I can't remember his name. I was trying to find out, but I remember back, I think it was either in the 90s or early 2000, there was a guy on Disney that was telling stories. I can't remember his name, but he was telling stories that you would sit there and you feel like you are there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I can't recall his name.
Hmm.
It was like every Sunday night or something like that. But anyway,
Hmm.
um, you talk
Story,
about. Go ahead.
storytelling's super popular.
Yeah, and
Go
it
ahead.
was great, and Lake something, and how the people are.
Yeah.
What are the most important? What is the most important tip for people doing video, speaking, or Podcasting, as far as their voice is concerned.
I
I've got a personal interest in this.
Well, you do great. I'll tell you, you do great. And I work with a number of podcasters or soon to be podcasters. Newbies, I think is what you call them. And I think that what's so key is, even if you're working off of a script, sounding natural and not getting so bogged down in the words in front of you that you start speaking them like this. Welcome to the podcast today. Today, our guest is Jennifer. You see, and I
Yeah.
see that happening a lot. You're giving the power to the words. You got to relax into that. And you can go about that several different ways. You can really, 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 really practice it over and over. But if you do, you must do so out loud. Because if you just review it in your mind, you're putting nothing in the muscle memory. What is here never comes out sounding the way it sounded in here unless we say it out loud first. So I think working on a very conversational tone, adding in variety, whether it's organic or technique, is essential. Because if you start out stilted like this, I don't know that people will connect with you. And if they don't connect, they're going to click you off. So that is probably my number one tip right now. But you mentioned video, there we go back. And really, truthfully, podcast voice, video voice, and what you look like. And I want to piggyback on something that Steve said earlier. You have to be able to get past what I look like, what I sound like. This is not Hollywood, which is good, which is great. You're not going to connect to everybody. Everybody in the world is not going to like your look. Everybody in the world is not going to like your sound. But there are going to be a whole lot of people who do. So you have to stop worrying about that, because the very people that need what you look like and what you sound like need you. And as long as you can't get past that, there's somebody out there waiting for a message that you're not delivering. Everybody doesn't like me. I'm okay with that. It took a while, but everybody doesn't like my style. I have a very expressive and gregarious style. It's very real. I just am very gregarious. Some people might not like that. That's okay, because there's other people that do what I do that are different. So you find who you can connect to. But if you never put it out there, so you've got to get past that. You've got to get past that fear. And I will say, and I bet you will agree with me, because both of you have been doing this, you told me, a year and 2 years, every time it gets easier. Every time you get better. Every time you learn to do it in a better way. And you get a groove, and it doesn't take very long, and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing. I've been doing Hangouts for 2 years. I've been doing
Yeah.
the show on the radio and on the internet since '93. It took me a long time.
Did it?
Yeah.
You're great. Oh my
And
gosh.
I
You're
remember
really great.
in the early days, the station manager used to sit me down, and I wasn't the paid employee of the station. I was doing it. I wasn't paying for it. I wasn't getting paid. It was just something that to help the local population, and it was really really hard to hear. Amnon, when you talk like this, it doesn't come through. Here's listen to
Yeah.
Ted, and you get. And it took a long time and a lot of talking and a lot of pointing out and criticism
Mhm.
to get to a point. And then you're right. When you feel comfortable suddenly sitting in front of the microphone, things just flow and you
Right.
don't think about it. And it's the way that it should be. You're right.
Well, and you just summed up the whole core of what I teach there. You know, you worked on it. You worked on it.
Right.
And you made it better. And so that's what happens. You 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 don't like your voice, you're not getting it right, you work on it. You learn how to use your voice. And what you did was you learned technique, you put it in the muscle memory, and one day you woke up and it had stuck and you were off and running. And that's how voice works. You know, it's hard in the moment, but it's truly just that simple. Any human alive can have a fantastic voice. End of story.
No. Yeah, there are some old shows from '93 on the site here that, and I go and I listen and I cringe and I said, boy, yeah, we came a long
Yeah.
way. Okay,
Yeah.
so people call you the red sweater lady. Where'd that come from? Why?
What a crazy brand, right? You know, I wish this was some phenomenal story. Like, you know, I was on this, you know, excursion and I had to save lives. And, you know, I wish it was something like that. But no. About 8 years ago, I was asked to be the expert for these eHow videos that I mentioned earlier. I came down to be the presentation skills and voice expert and I did about 70 videos for them when it was all said and done. And the first day on the set, director said action, and I started in on my first video and I know what I'm talking about, and I introduced myself and he said cut, and I'm like, what? All I've done is introduce myself. And he said, well, Whip, what are we going to call you? And I said, what? He said, what are we going to call you? You got to have a name. And I said, Tracy Goodwin. I mean, that's my name. No, you got to have a name. I don't know what you call. I don't know what you should call me. I had this red sweater on, and he said, "How about the red sweater lady?" And I said, "I like that," and it stuck.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history, because people from all over the world have, you know, on a regular basis, I get these emails. Are you the red sweater lady? I'm looking for the red sweater lady.
Mm.
And I've really, you know, really tried to change it over the years, because some marketing people have said, oh, you know, you got to get rid of that brand. So that's where I'm branched out, and I've got the second brand, which is Captivate the Room. But I'll never be able to get rid of the red sweater lady, because that's, you know, people still look for her. People still, you know, that's what they call me. So that's where that brand came from. And a lot of people like it. You know, a lot of people say, you know, it's powerful, it's strong. And when people go through my program, they get a red sweater at the end. So they've been red sweatered so they can, you know, be confident and go out in the world. So it's kind of fun in a way. I kind of like it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Speaking the right way, it's not just for public speaking and podcasting I mean, day-to-day life in the office, at work, at home, you know, it's important too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think the verbiage on my websites is something like, you know, voice and speaking for live presentations, on camera podcasting, and water cooler conversation, because it's essential everywhere. How you say it And really, even in day-to-day life, what you say or what you don't say. And I still do a number of workshops in effective communication strategies because that's still the voice. And that's still the psychology of the voice. I go in and people will not communicate what they need to communicate. And so it all links back to the voice. We have to be able to say what we need to say, but we have to be able to say it right. And that's where we get into tone. I can say to you, don't ever do that again. Or I can choose a different tone. Unfortunately, in far too many situations, the go-to is the different tone. And that's where problems arise. I think probably especially in marriages. My mother drove my mother nuts. My father always had this, he would say no with this tone, and she hated his tone. I think you can get anything you want if you have the right tone. You can say whatever you need to say, but you need to say it beautifully, because otherwise it feels like an attack. So yeah, I think from start to finish, A to Z, you can be the top speaker, the top podcaster, just starting out in video, or you can be, employee 457 at whatever company. It's still crucial to know how to use your voice and how to speak your truth. You got a message to deliver.
Mhm.
Deliver it,
All right. So before let's start winding down, I want to go back and let's see what is the biggest mistake. What are the biggest mistakes that people make with their voice?
Well, part of that is not saying what they need to say, not technically the voice. Definitely not letting I think this kind of almost is going to be the same answer that I gave earlier with those 3 most important tips. Let me see if I can think through this a minute. Well, not getting the words in, not, driving to the end thing. That's a deal breaker right there. Not communicating and choosing words and articulating those words. I think the refusal to let the voice out is a problem. And I see this. I'll give you an example. We work so hard, but it is all on the subconscious level to not let our voice out. I see it the most with actors. But you take someone that's very nasal. It's possible that nasality is literally their voice trying to come out, because the voice is going to come out. So you can let it out and let it out beautifully, or it's going to force its way out. Sometimes that's what nasality can be. So I think not letting the voice out is a dangerous, because you're not going to be understood. You're not going to you're not going to be a joy to listen to. And I don't know. I guess
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's what I mean, guys. Listen to this, because these are the things that you need to pay attention to. I'm.
Well,
Go
I
ahead.
think anybody that's tense, if you're tense, you're going to clam up, and you're going to, it's like if you've got tense shoulders, and like you say, unless you open your mouth, then you're just going to speak like this, and it's not going to come out. You're not going to sound confident. You're just working against yourself. If you can release that tension a little bit, shrug your shoulders a few times before you actually go on to mic, and it'll help to relax you.
Well, and breathing is huge. And I also have something that I teach that I love, that I call over practice. And it's where you take part of your script or whatever you're working with and you overdo it. You do it wildly. And then you come in and you do it. And when you do it, it's spot on. It's full of life. It's full of energy. Whereas if you come in, nervous and flatlining, you're just not going to hit that mark. So over practice is really fun, and it kind of gets things going, but breathing is essential as well. It really helps reduce the tension in the face, in the body, calms the nerves, helps you connect to the words to become more vulnerable. People need to learn to breathe. We don't breathe. Studies on Americans, especially not breathing or staggering, we hold our breath. And we've got to learn to breathe. There's power in the breath. That's the fuel. That's the fuel that drives the voice car.
I thought that's what drives us.
Well, that too. And I mean, of course, we breathe because we do.
Yeah, we don't think
But
about it. Yep.
yeah, we don't think about it. And then, but then what we tend to do is when we get nervous, we kind of lock it in.
Oh.
I'm talking breathe.
So, Tracy, is there anything else that you want to add to everything that you were talking about before we get to maybe some more questions from Steve or anybody in the chat?
No, I think this has been great, and I'm excited and encouraged by all of the people that want to do video and podcasting and just even want to improve their voice. I truly believe it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because if you hate your voice and you won't speak your words, people come to me, they're 40, they're 50, they're 55, and they've hated their voice or they have feared speaking their entire life. And it doesn't have to be that way. It just doesn't. So I think it's great. I encourage people to really step into this power.
And people find you again at captivatetheroom.com.
Yes. And the redsweaterlady.com will always be up. I'll never be able to take it down.
And you do provide one-on-one. I mean, people can go to the website and find all that out, but give us the spiel.
Yes, they can absolutely go to the website and get information on my programs. I do one-on-one training, which is an option, but I also have an online voice program that is very cool. It's an 8-week program, and every week you have a live training webinar and with a replay link, and it's kind of like Hangout. You're in the space with me, and you get one of those every week, and you get a one-on-one session, and you get 2 conference calls during that 8 weeks, and then you get 2 video assessments where you can take the skills that I'm teaching that you're working on and make a video and send it in, and I'll get the feedback back. And that's a great program for people that just really need to work at their own pace. They just really, need to watch the videos at 3 a.m. because that's the only time that they have. Obviously, one-on-one is absolutely specialized. I tailor a program exactly to what you need. And then I've also got downloadable courses. My most popular one is Voice Technique for Video, Webinar, and Podcast Success. And those are all downloadable videos. I have an accent reduction online course and another one called Captivate the Room on Camera. In addition, I've got a 3-week storytelling program that I'm going to be rolling out where I really teach you to really use stories in a way that captivates. People are using stories, but a lot of people are not using stories and captivating their audience. So that'll be rolling out soon. But all of that information is on the website.
Okay. Steve, any other questions or comments that you have?
No, apart from being a very interesting discussion today. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Steve, where are you from? What accent is this?
This is an English accent. I'm from the south of England.
South. Okay. I have so many friends from the UK, and all of their, they're all a little different. They're all. I mean, when I learned that dialect, I learned classic BBC. But I've got a friend who he calls it peaky, or so. It's some place in the UK, and another one is more.
District?
What's it called?
Peak District.
Yes, and his accent is different.
Yeah.
So I was just curious what part you were from.
Yeah, I'm from the southwest in Somerset. So it's quite a most of the people in England, because it's such a small country in comparison to the United States, but you can literally go 50 miles and the accent is completely different. And you can generally tell if you're from England, you can usually tell roughly the area that somebody comes from their accent. Jorvik, that's in the chat or was earlier, he speaks in a generalized sort of BBC English voice. He doesn't really have a localized accent, whereas I do. Most people that are from England, they'll know straight away that I'm from the southwest of England, and they'll say, "You're from Somerset, aren't you?" I do try and disguise it a little bit when I'm talking online, but irrespective, if you're an English person, you would know I'm from southwest of England immediately. Just
Right.
say 3 words and that's it. You're from Somerset, aren't you?
Interesting. Well, I guess it's the same here. Somebody from Chicago sounds totally different than somebody from Texas
Yeah.
or, you know, wherever. So I guess it's really like that everywhere.
Mm.
Steve, who speaks Cockney? Cockney?
They're from around the London area. London is losing its Cockney accent. The bigger it gets and the more international it becomes. But there are certain parts of London where you have a really strong Cockney accent. And it's nothing like Dick Van Dyke.
No, no. I think a Cockney accent in some ways is a little bit like that thick French Cajun accent. You know, they're thick, they're hard, they're a little, they can be a little tricky to understand.
Yeah.
They're kind of a language of their own in a way.
Yeah. I think that the most difficult language I've ever come across from the UK is Glaswegian from Glasgow, because they talk so fast.
So fast.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Need to slow down, because I just can't. I had a friend in Glasgow, and when we initially started conversing through MSN Messenger back in those days, I used to have to say, you have to slow down. I can hear you speaking, but the words you're saying, I've no idea.
Yeah,
and
sounds like gibberish.
You have to tune your ear for a good 3 or 4 minutes before you start to get it. It's really strange.
Well, you know, we have to do that with everybody, actually. And that's one of the reasons, you know, that's one of the things I teach people is you've got to come on solid, because I'm not adjusted to you yet. And that's where pacing is, you know, is such a crucial technique, because if, you know, you could easily tune out that guy, you know, oh, I'm not going to work this hard. I'm not going to work this hard to listen to you. And that's what happens with our audience. We don't want to give them any chance where they have to work too hard or they won't listen to us. So that's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, if you can get your message across and keep it interesting and clear, then people will listen to you. As you say, if it's hard work, then you just, oh no, I can't be bothered.
No, they're not. Not with cell phones and, you know, texting and every distraction that we have now. You know, I went on did a training once, and the first question the guy says, "Tracy, what do I do when I know the guy on the end of the computer's playing Angry Birds?" You know, I mean, it's just, I said, well, you better get your voice unpredictable quick to get him off. You know, he's not interested. He's not interested in what you're saying. You're not captivating him.
Yeah, captivation, that's it.
Too many distractions.
Yep. All right. Well, it's 11 o'clock and...
Wow, this went by fast. This was fun. You guys are fun to hang out with.
And if you want to do it again, we'll do it again. And don't get off the hangout after we sign off, because we come back right away with you. Okay, everybody. Steve, thanks again. Tracy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tracy, you want to say good morning or good whatever to anybody?
Well, no, just thank you both for allowing me to be here, and thank you to all the listeners. I hope that you gleaned some beneficial nuggets today, and it was just really a joy to be here with you guys.
We did. All right. So good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, tune in tonight at 8 o'clock for the Tanya Love Show. See ya.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.